The movie begins with a young woman named Carly, who is wandering in a field looking for her lost mother. She looks anxious as she hears noise from all around her. After walking for a while, she arrives at a building, where Carly again overhears her mother's plea for help. The inside of the building is dark, and she takes out her flashlight. The poor woman is scared as she looks around the dark building. Finally, after a while of searching around, Carly discovers her mother, but she merely turns around and creepily smiles at her. The older woman then says out of the blue that Carly isn't aware of where she is. A lost Carly looks around herself, when suddenly her mother throws down a lit lighter, making the room catch fire. A scared Carly gasps awake. Fortunately for her, it is just a dream. She gets up lazily and freshens up before having breakfast, all the while thinking about the creepy dream she had. Carly then gets ready to go out. When she is inside her car, she receives a text from an old friend named Martin, whom she had almost lost contact with, asking to meet up. The girl is surprised to receive the text, but she doesn't reply. Soon after, her friend Sam calls. Carly looks happy, cheerfully chatting with her friend, requesting her address as she is on the way to meet her. Carly and Sam haven't seen each other in years, and their excitement is visible when they finally meet. The two besties go up to have lunch while they chat. Carly shares that she received a text from Martin but didn't reply. It has been about 7 years since they last spoke. They distance themselves from Martin due to his strange theories about Carly's mother, Angela. After catching up for a while, Carly says her goodbyes and leaves, but not before promising to keep their meetups more frequent. That night, while Carly is home, she thinks about Martin and searches up his social media account. It turns out that she misses this old friend of hers. As she is going through his pictures, she gets another message asking her to meet up, with a location. Finally, Carly texts back, agreeing to go. The following day, Carly meets up with Martin as planned. Martin reveals that he was invited to participate in a focus group test for a tech company, which involved real medical patients. As he got there, he found out that one of these patients happened to be a comatose individual named Angela, who is Carly's mother. Carly is shocked after hearing this news. It is then revealed that she has not been in contact with her mother, nor does she know her whereabouts. Martin tells her that the people there wanted her contact information, but he didn't give it. He also apologizes for their past, and how he made Carly angry before. The woman accepts his apology, and their meetup ends there, leaving Carly freaked out by her mother's sudden news. Carly comes back home and goes through her mother's pictures, reminiscing the old days. As she delves into her past, her facial expressions contort, and her suppressed heartache becomes almost visible. Later that night, Carly receives a call from a man named Michael, who identifies himself as being from the Rapal. He informs Carly that her mother's health has taken a turn for the worse. Carly inquires about what happened to her mother, but Michael explains that he cannot disclose medical details over the phone. Instead, he invites Carly to come to the Rapal so they can explain everything in person. After thinking for a while, Carly finally agrees to go. The next day, Carly arrives at the Rapal and meets Michael, who proceeds to guide her inside. Michael explains that the Rapal is a medical imaging company that receives funding from both the government and private sources. He introduces her to Daniel, the lead researcher who knows about neurology and biomedical imaging, while he himself is a physician. Their company is in touch with hospitals and prisons all over the country in search of a candidate for their research due to their specific requirement. Carly listens intently, and then reveals that she hasn't been in contact with Angela for quite some time. Afterwards, Michael reveals that Angela fell into a coma where she is essentially locked inside her body, but they have discovered that Angela remains highly active within a simulation, calling out for Carly. The woman is shocked to hear the word simulatio, and probes the two for answers about what in the world is happening to her mother. The lead researcher passionately explains what they are doing, and tells Carly that it's like traveling to a dream. The woman looks at the researcher, dumbfounded. She is not able to wrap her head around the information. Looking at her lost expression, Michael explains it in simple terms. Now, Carly is faced with a challenging proposition. They ask if she is willing to enter Angela's mind to communicate with her. However, they caution that the experience can be disorienting, as fragments of memories and places can intertwine and confuse the outsider. Despite her reservations, Carly reluctantly agrees to undertake this task. They proceed to capture a photo of her for the simulation. Finally, they lead Carly to her mother, whose condition is in a critical state. Before going in, Michael cautions Carly to brace herself, as it might be hard for her to see her mother in such a condition. Once inside, she sees her mother on the ventilator, connected with hundreds of tubes and wires. She has a ton of scars covering her entire body. Poor Carly is terrified. Daniel and Michael then tell her how Angela became more and more violent in prison, and her aggressive tendencies escalated over the years, finally resulting in such a situation. Their conversation reveals that Angela was previously locked up in prison. However, the reason for that is yet to be unveiled. Carly looks at her mother for a while, and then Daniel leads her to the adjacent bed next to Angela. After the preparations are complete, Carly lies down on a bed, ready to enter the simulation. Michael and Daniel inform her that they will be able to see and hear her, but she won't be able to hear them. If she requests it, they will immediately bring her out of the simulation. Carly looks at her mother's unconscious form as she lies down, ready to go meet her. But even if she didn't, that wouldn't be surprising, since she has put her utmost trust in two total strangers the day she met them. Anyway, Michael and Daniel move to the control room and initiate the simulation, transporting Carly into her childhood home. Inside the simulated world, Carly is taken aback to find herself outside her childhood home. She exclaims as she walks slowly towards the door. The woman is unable to believe that the simulation can almost copy every single detail of her house. When Carly enters her bedroom, she is startled by what she discovers. Angela is in her room. Although she knew that she would be meeting her mother there, the sudden sight gives her a shock. Mustering up her courage, Carly confronts her, expressing her resentment and the desire to tell her how much she hates her. Angela admits she already knew, and insists that Carly should leave without even sparing her a glance. Carly, persistent, pleads with Angela to turn and face her. Reluctantly, Angela complies, but she strangely warns Carly about some potential danger she might pose. After looking at her daughter, Angela aggressively tells her to leave and never come back. Their interaction escalates into an argument, with Carly getting extremely angry. Michael watches the argument and quickly instructs Daniel to pull Carly out of the simulation. After coming out, a very disoriented Carly sits in front of a camera with Daniel and Michael, who are asking her questions. Michael explains to Carly that she must return to the simulation, although she initially refuses. He reminds her that this is her chance to finally understand why her mother left her 20 years ago. He urges Carly to ask Angela about this unresolved mystery of why her mother went on a homicidal rampage, leading her to be imprisoned. On the way back home, Carly keeps thinking about the past and her mother. That night, she has a nightmare where she hears her mother's voice, leading her to a strange secluded cabin in the woods. A terrified yet determined Carly follows the voice to the place, where a peculiar symbol crafted from a raven awaits her. The next morning, Carly arrives at the Rapal for another venture into the simulation. This time, she discovers a tunnel inside the simulation that astonishes her. She asks the two men sitting outside for guidance, but they do not respond, so she decides to venture inside it. Passing through the tunnel, she emerges in a field outside an old sanatorium where Angela worked. Carly finds the woman sitting quietly in a corner. As she moves near the woman, Angela keeps telling her to go away and don't come back. It's as if she is warning Carly against some potential danger. Angela's face contorts, and she looks pained as she reveals the presence of someone, or something, that derives power from that place, but now resides within her. Carly, intrigued, asks who resides inside Angela, but Angela only insists that she leave. Carly persists, questioning why Angela called her and Martin to this place. Angela denies making the call, and reiterates her demand for Carly to depart. Suddenly, Angela starts levitating, leaving Carly astonished and terrified. Carly desperately pleads with Daniel to extract her from the simulation, but Michael intervenes, forbidding Daniel from doing so. In a state of confusion and fear, Carly frantically searches for an exit, desperately trying to make sense of the overwhelming situation. As she heads towards the sanatorium, she stumbles upon the lifeless body of her friend, Sam. Carly is puzzled as to how Sam ended up there, only to be confronted by a terrifying raven-like demon. Overwhelmed with Carly witnesses the strange, terrifying demon slashing its arm, and creepily enough, her arm slashes open in reality, abruptly waking her from the simulation. Later, Daniel admits that he has no explanation for how this incident occurred. Carly questions why they didn't extract her from the simulation when she asked them to. The woman is extremely angry at the duo for putting her in danger. Michael tries to calm her down, and inquires about the location Angela took her to within the simulation. The woman asks if they know what Angela was convicted for. Carly then recalls how her mother was a loving nurse before things took a sinister turn. She recalls her childhood's small group of friends, including herself, Sam, and Martin. One afternoon, while they were drinking at Carly's house because Angela was out, Carly suddenly became strangely worried that something had happened to Angela. Angela had visited a sanatorium for tuberculosis. She was on a provincial medical team who went there for evaluation of whether the sanatorium should reopen. Extremely worried, Carly coerced Martin into driving them there. Upon arrival, they discovered Angela's abandoned car, but no sign of her. Worried, they ventured inside the building, where they found Angela in an unconscious state. She had a bleeding cut on her arm, just like the cut that Carly has on her arm right now. They brought her back home, but Angela's behavior drastically changed and worsened over time after that incident. Carly recalls witnessing Angela dismembering a raven in the kitchen, and one day, Angela was taken away by the police, creepily smiling at Carly as she was placed in the car. Carly later learned that Angela had set fire to an elderly care home where she worked, resulting in the demise of 21 individuals. The police also connected Angela to 5 poisoning incidents, including Carly's own grandmother, at a local church. It was then that Carly made the decision to never see her mother again. Michael asks Carly if anyone else was present in the simulation besides herself and Angela. Carly reveals the presence of Sam before deciding to leave, leaving Michael and Daniel with the weight of unanswered questions. Once outside, a scared Carly quickly calls Sam, strangely worried for her best friend. While she is tending to her arm, she thinks about everything that has been happening so far, and decides to pay Martin a visit. Carly arrives at Martin's and shares her haunting experience with him. She apologizes to him for what happened before, and pleads with him to share what he knows. She asks about his notes and sketches. Martin explains that his troubles began after they found Angela. He started sleepwalking and experiencing nightmares, which he documented through writing and sketching. Back then, he wanted to show her and Sam, but they cut him off, calling him crazy. Suddenly, his eyes land on Carly's arm, and a petrified Carly shares that it's the same as Angela. Martin's disposition changes, and he then proceeds to take Carly to show her his theories on demonic possession, displaying the sketches of the creature she encountered in the simulation, along with all his research. According to Martin, the demon manipulates its targets by making them hallucinate and makes them do things. He believes the sanatorium is built on haunted grounds. Historical records from 1889 indicate accounts of possessions and murders in the area. Martin further reveals his theory that the Vatican funds special black ops groups consisting of priests. These groups acquire companies like the Rapal to identify genuinely possessed individuals, who may initially appear to suffer from medical conditions. The squad's objective is to bring the demon to its entry point from where he emerged for elimination. In the case of Angela, Martin believes the sanatorium serves as that entry point, and the people at the Rapal are actually priests. Carly listens to his theories, but soon gets fed up, thinking that he is lying. As she begins to leave, he asks Carly if she experiences any hallucinations outside the simulation, as it could be a sign that the demon has latched onto her. Carly brushes him off and leaves Martin's house in an extremely bewildered state. She thinks Martin has totally gone mad now. Returning home at night, Carly is startled to find Sam already present in her house. She abruptly asks Sam to leave, which confuses her friend. Carly explains that she just came from Martin's house and had an encounter with Angela. Sam promises to be there if Carly needs anything, and reluctantly leaves. Later that night, Carly is awakened by strange sounds and someone banging on her door. When she opens it, she finds Sam standing there. They begin to converse, during which Sam mentions wanting to show Carly a trick, and suggests that if she can't find her, Carly should search for her in the woods. Sam dons a bird mask, and the room's lights start flickering. Suddenly, Sam contorts her body and moves menacingly towards Carly. Filled with fear, Carly runs away and barricades herself in her bedroom. She lies on the floor, gasping, as the demon bangs the door again and again. Eventually, the menacing demon breaks the door open and barges in, attacking poor Carly, who shrieks. The ordeal abruptly ends as Carly wakes up, gasping for breath. Turns out it was another nightmare. She quickly jumps off the bed and arms herself with the kitchen knife, ready to strike any demon that threatens her. She then picks up her phone, dialing Sam, but it goes to voicemail. Meanwhile, on the other side, it is revealed that Daniel and Michael have been monitoring Carly, confirming Martin's theory that they indeed are priests funded by the Vatican. Michael reveals that the demon has become obsessed with poor Carly, seeking to possess her and continue the crimes it compelled Angela to commit. Michael orders his team to get Angela ready, as they decide to take her to the sanatorium to eliminate the demon. Back at home, a scared Carly quickly gets dressed and runs to Sam's house with the kitchen knife in hand. Once she arrives there, she discovers that her friend is missing. Alarmed, she calls 911 and reports the situation, explaining that the front door is open, the power is out, and Sam is unresponsive on her phone. After some time, an officer arrives and conducts an investigation. However, no signs of forced entry are found, prompting the officer to advise Carly to wait for 48 hours before initiating a missing person case if necessary. Distressed by Sam's disappearance, Carly visits Martin and shares the unsettling news. Martin urges her to stay calm, but Carly reveals her nightmare, in which Sam instructed her to search for her in the woods. Carly insists that they must go there to find Sam. Martin, however, cautions Carly, believing that the demon is luring her into a trap. Carly, feeling indebted to Sam for her unwavering support, insists that she has no choice but to search for her. Determined, they embark on a journey to the woods. Martin collects his weapons, and together they drive towards poor Sam. Driving through abandoned roads and woods, they eventually come across Sam's car. Martin stops the vehicle and ventures out to investigate, but he returns without finding Sam. They start the car and move forward, when they suddenly catch sight of something unusual, leading them to brake and descend. There, amid the bushes, they finally discover a traumatized Sam. Sam reveals that a group of men took Angela into the nearby sanatorium. Carly and Martin bring Sam back to the car, but as Martin is about to start the engine, Carly insists that she must find Angela. She argues that if all that they are going through is true, then Angela is not to blame for everything that happened, so she can't abandon her like this. Martin attempts to convince her that it's a trick orchestrated by the demon to draw her back into the building, but Carly remains determined. Seeing her unwavering determination, Martin agrees to support her decision and go with her. Upon arriving at the sanatorium, they come across the lifeless body of a Black Ops soldier. Martin dials the police, but there is no reception. He then prepares his gun and proposes that they leave Sam in the car and enter the building together, promising to return if they don't find Angela within 10 minutes. Inside, they encounter the simulation, and Martin discovers materials related to exorcism, proving their hypothesis regarding the priests backed up by the Vatican. As they go in, they come across a dying Daniel, who reveals that the demon has left Angela, possessed Michael, and made him take out the rest of the squad. The demon is now free, relentlessly pursuing Carly. When she asks about Angela, Daniel tells her that the woman is inside the simulation, but she must be too far gone to be saved. But if Carly wants to try, she will need to enter the simulation and bring her out. Daniel then gives Carly a holy lance, explaining that it can eliminate the demon. Proceeding further into the sanatorium, Carly asks Martin to shoot her if the demon manages to take control of her. They walk through a dark tunnel and finally come across a strange room lit with candles, where Angela is kept for the exorcism. Carly expresses her intention to enter the simulation to rescue Angela, and Martin supports her while urging her to act swiftly. Before going in, Carly thanks Martin for supporting her and finally enters the simulation. She comes up to an empty dark place with stairs leading down. She descends to come across a house. Meanwhile, back outside, Martin confronts the demon and fires his weapon, but to no avail. The demon continues its relentless approach towards him, and the man takes out his knife. The sounds of Martin's screams fill the air. Back inside the simulation, Carly enters the house, where she encounters Angela. However, everything is reversed in this realm. Angela warns Carly that she shouldn't have come to this place. She reveals that the demon has left her and returned to its point of origin. Carly implores Angela to leave with her, but Angela expresses a sense of peace that she finally found after years of torture with the demon. She expresses her love for her daughter before succumbing to her fate, passing away in Carly's presence. Everything inside the simulation begins to self-destruct. Carly somehow manages to escape the simulation and frantically searches for Martin, only to find him missing. She gets up and comes near her mother's corpse. Tears well up in her eyes as she says her goodbye and takes the torch to go look for Martin. On her way out, she sees Martin's weapon and splashes of blood nearby. A terrified Carly finally manages to exit the building and discovers Daniel's lifeless body nearby. In the car, she finds night vision goggles, and as she continues her search, she encounters Martin's car engulfed in flames. She falls on her knees crying. Poor Carly can't believe her eyes. Her only best friend lies lifeless before her eyes. As she wallows in grief, she hears Martin's screams from another direction. Quickly pulling herself together, she moves in his direction, where she discovers Martin trapped in a corner with his hands bound to the wall. Martin reveals that the demon has come for Carly and is using him as a trap. He urges her to escape. Determined to save him, Carly attempts to free Martin, but all of a sudden the demon-possessed Michael arrives and advances towards her. In a desperate bid for survival, Carly flees, while Michael advances menacingly towards Martin. He crouches near Martin with a bloody knife in hand, and in a threatening voice, promises to once he inhabits Carly's body. The demon then leaves Martin and goes after Carly, with Martin shouting after him to leave the poor woman alone. Meanwhile, a scared Carly hides, trying to evade the demon, but he soon surprises her from behind, grabbing hold of her and declaring that she will become his new home. Pumping with adrenaline and determination, Carly musters up every last ounce of power in her and thrusts the holy lance into Martin, fatally injuring him. Michael falls down, writhing in pain, and the demon finally comes out of his body, but in a painful turn of fate, thrusts itself inside the poor woman. Carly wrestles with the demonic possession and eventually musters up the strength to forcefully insert the lance in her, expelling the demon from her body. The evil entity finally perishes in flames at the hands of the very woman it became obsessed with. Some time later, we see Carly in a hospital, accompanied by Martin, healing from her wound. Upon her release, Carly visits Angela's grave, leaving flowers as a gesture of closure, and the movie comes to an end.